Good afternoon to those who listen. It is May 24th, 2025, 2:11 p.m. And it looks like it doesn't really matter though. I'm not showing anything on here anyway. Uh, well, I woke up this morning and really super bad asthma and had to do a nebulizer immediately. If I wouldn't have, I would have either had to go to the emergency room or died. And I know some people, especially a lot of people I know, family, would have said, "Oh, you're exaggerating." But I really am not. I've already had doctors saying, when if you get that bad, go to the emergency room. Problem is, if that was the case, I would be in the emergency room like every single day. And they don't do nothing for me that I can't already do at home with the nebulizer. Sometimes they'll give me prednisone, but that's about it. Otherwise, it's the same thing. So, my roommate this morning, he came down. He says, "Man, it's terrible. I can't breathe." And he has asthma, but nowhere near as bad as me. And he says the last few days he's had problems breathing too when he woke up in the morning. So we are 99% sure that whatever they're doing over there, construction, with all the dust flying up, is what's causing the problems. We don't have the greatest windows or doors. They're not sealed properly. So it comes through. You can smell it in the house. And when this morning, I went back into my room and it's like, oh my goodness, I can just smell the dust in the room. And I said, "Hey, Dave, go into my room. Tell me what you think." He goes, "Oh my God, it's terrible. I can smell the dust. It's terrible." So I got to get out of here. So we made a decision. We're going to move. So we're going to put in our 30-day notice and get out of here. Since I can't get low income housing now, since I got screwed out of that, we're going to have to, stick together. So, because I can't afford it on my own and I can't get a place on my own anyway. One, because I couldn't afford it on my own. Two, I wouldn't have enough income to be approved. So I'm going to have to have a roommate to be able to do this. I've already used my nebulizer 3 times today. It's terrible, and I'm just coughing and coughing. Usually, I've never really had problems when I've had asthma forever, but I've never got to the point where I was that bad where I'm coughing and coughing, and now I'm at that stage. So I just got to get out of here. That's the decision, and I'm been praying and praying and praying and asking for God's will in this, but I know God would not want me to just suffer and not be able to breathe, or keep having going to the emergency room, or even die. God would not want that. So I don't know. I thought the God. I've already had a bunch of confirmations that I was supposed to go to this little town, low income housing. It was perfect. It was a perfect setup for me. I could have had a 2-bedroom apartment for $307 a month, all utilities paid, which would have saved me $300 to $350 a month, which would have been great. But of course, I got screwed out of it because of an apartment complex that wouldn't allow me to go to a different apartment and then put me in collections. And then I found out that they broke the law again, because the lease was 9 months left at $247. That's $2,223 that I owed. And they charged me $5,166. And that's almost $3,000 more. And I'm like, there's no way, even with late fees, that it would be that much difference. So they're doing it on purpose just so I get screwed, so I can't get low income housing. And it's just terrible. And Section 8, I can understand the apartment complex not trying to help, but Section 8, their whole motto is, we find safe livable homes for low income for low income people. And then they went against their own rules and wouldn't help me. And then the whole thing, the lawyer, I was talking with my roommate about this. He can't believe it. He goes, all the evidence you had, and the doctor's notes, everything, and they wouldn't help me. It's insane. And then I had a lawyer, and the lawyer literally had a phone call. He was going to have a 3-way phone call between me, him, and the apartment complex, the actually management, in another state, the company that ran the apartment complexes. And he says, okay, tomorrow morning, call me up and we'll do this call. And they made an agreement. They said they're going to cancel out the 9 months as long as you turn in the keys. So then the next morning came and I called and they said, oh, sorry, but Bob went on vacation. And I'm like, what? What do you mean he went on vacation? He's supposed to have this call set up. So I waited 2 weeks and called back, and then they said, oh, he decided to quit and he went back to Cedar Rapids. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Unbelievable. So the whole thing was fishy. It seemed like a setup. It seemed like somebody was paid off. And the whole thing didn't make any sense. I had all the proof in the world. Just the fact that there was mold there should have been enough. The proof that I had that there was mold, the proof that I had that I was allergic to that specific mold, and the fact that, God, I'm already having a hard time breathing. And just the fact that, what was I going to say? The mold, oh yeah, just the fact that my doctors put in doctor's notes, he cannot live in this apartment. He has asthma, COPD, any stressed, any amount of mold triggers his asthma. He cannot live there. That should have been enough right there. I wasn't asking for $1 million. All I asked for was to switch to a different apartment. And what else was funny too was I called down to the office and I asked them, I said, I'm having a hard time here, with this mold in here. Can you guys just switch me to a different apartment? And the lady said, oh yeah, sure, no problem. All we have to do is go on your lease and white out the apartment number and put in a different number and we'll switch you over to another apartment. Okay, great, finally. And then I called back the next day and, that was wrong. She got fired. And we're not doing it. That's not our policy to switch people out of the apartments. So the whole thing was fishy, and I know it was a setup to screw me over. Why they would want to screw someone over when it was something simple to do. They had 3 available apartments open that they could have switched me to, but they refused to do it. And it's just insane. And it's screwing up my life now. It's screwing up my credit, for one. And it's screwing me out of getting any low-income housing anywhere in the entire United States because of this. And I really thought that this was my answer to get out of this area, get into low-income housing, be in a better town that has clean air and, no drama with everything that's been going on here, I thought that's what God wanted, but apparently not. So the whole problem with, asking for God's will is I don't know what that is. And I just know that I have to get out of here. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I have to leave. Not unless the landlord comes in and replaces all the doors and the windows and cleans out the ventilation system. That's not going to happen. So she's already going to be upset that, she's got to replace the stove and fix all the pipes with the lead in the water. Wow. So I got to leave. There's no, if God wants me to stay here, then and have me suffer and not be able to breathe or even possibly die, then that's not the God I know. So either that means there is no God, or that's a God that's, that doesn't care about his people. So I know that's not true. So, but again, what is God's will? I don't know. But I just know it's not here. It can't be here. I can't live here. And even my roommate's starting to have problems breathing too. He had his girlfriend over here last week, and she has no breathing problems at all, and she couldn't breathe. The dust is just flying everywhere. And every few days, my car is just caked with dust. Like a layer of dust. I should have recorded it, but I didn't. But, when it happens again, because I know it will, I'll do a video on it, because it's just, it's just a layer of dust. It's terrible. And I know a lot of people don't believe me, and a lot of people say, well, if God is real, why isn't he helping this guy? All these problems he's had for years, where is his God? And that's what I get from my roommate. There is no God. See, this proves that there's no God, because he would be helping you right now, instead of letting you die, letting you have all these breathing problems. So it's hard to, I just have to believe still that God is going to work it out, and it's going to happen. I'm going to be in the place where I need to be. I just have to believe that. But it's like, what is going on? Why am I have to have so many problems? Why can't this be, it's something simple that could be solved, but nobody will do it. And I can't find any lawyer in the entire state of Iowa that does Section 8 termination. I'm going to have to go national or federal with this. It's not going to help me now, but maybe I can sue them and then at least get that off my collection so I can get low-income housing, because this is ridiculous. I've had asthma my whole life, and I've always had, problems breathing since 1988. That's when I started having to use asthma sprays and all that. So it's not like I made this up, like the apartment complex said, oh, you're just making it up. The mold there is not elevated, so you can live there. And I told that lady, Section 8 lady, I said, if you had a daughter and she had health problems, asthma, and she, was living in an apartment like this, and it had mold, and it was affecting her health, and the doctor said that she could die from it, would you have her live here? Oh, yeah, I would, no problem. I said, you're an effing liar, in front of her face. I'm like, come on, nobody would do that. That's what I can't understand. Why in the world would not Section 8 help me, knowing that I have health problems, knowing that I had all the proof, knowing that the doctor said I couldn't live there? I don't know. It's not worth going on. I get upset about this because, 7 years ago, and it's still on my record. How? It's incredible. It makes me mad that, they made the agreement and then backed out of the agreement after I turned in the keys. And, they said, turn in the keys, and then, you'll be fine. And then I waited the 2 weeks because the guy was supposedly on vacation. And then I called back, and I, didn't get a hold. Oh, we got, he quit. So then I had to call somebody else and find out what happened. And then they said, oh, well, the agreement that they made, they decided they weren't going to do it after the fact. Well, thanks. I already did everything that I was supposed to do. And then they, backtrack on what they said, and then they screwed me over and put that on my report. And the thing was I didn't even know it was on the report, because they didn't put it on the report. And, it happened in September of 2018. They didn't put it on the report until January of 2020. Really? Come on. I was homeless twice, and luckily only temporarily homeless from this. And then I had to live with my sister, which, she never helped me out at all. I kept telling her, I had doctor's notes too, saying, can you please smoke outside? No, fuck you. This is my house. I'm going to smoke if I want. And I had problems with that. And then she kept using bleach. Did it on purpose, just to screw with me. So then I had to leave there. And then I went to some friends, and then he screwed me over and kicked me out. And then I was homeless again. It was like, wow. So I don't understand why all this bad stuff keeps happening to me. It doesn't make sense. You know, I came back to Iowa. I was in a perfect Section 8 apartment, an $800 apartment. I had to pay $40 a month. I could have stayed there, but I chose to come back to be near my kids. And I'm being punished for wanting to be around my kids, I guess. It doesn't make sense to me. Apparently, every time I come back to Iowa, I have major problems. Health problems, a lot of health problems. And then other weird, crazy problems that don't make sense. And it never involves me. It's always something else, somebody else's problems, but it has to affect my life. So I don't understand it. I don't understand what God's doing. You know, a lot of people are just going to keep saying, well, look, see, there is no God because he's not helping you out. Why wouldn't he help you out? You've had faith for all these years. And again, I don't understand it. I don't know what God's doing. All I can do is just keep believing and have trust and faith that God's going to work things out. So that's all I can do. So I appreciate everyone's prayers because I got to get out of here. You know, pray that we can find another place and have enough money to do it. That's another problem that's going to arise because we're going to have to come up with probably close to $1,000 for rent and $1,000 deposit. So that's $2,000. It's going to probably be $1,000 each. I only get $927 a month, and you know, obviously I got other bills. So, and he doesn't have any money. He owes me money still, and he's probably get caught up by then. But is he going to have enough money to afford to move out too? I don't know. So that's another problem that we have to face is we might not have enough money to do it in the first place. And then we still got to get approved. We got to find a place. It's just, at least we got 30 days to do it. And that's another thing too. What if we, commit to not signing the lease and then we can't find someplace to go? Then we're both homeless. Well, he's got somewhere to go. But I don't know. Just pray for God's will in this. I don't know what it is, but I know it has to be out of this place. I can't live here. He's even having problems breathing. We can't do it. And that construction, that's probably going to be going on for months or years. So I'm sorry again, another long video. Sorry about that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And thanks for all the prayers. I appreciate it all. I love you guys. Thanks. God bless.